So good morning everyone, my name is Lalit Soni and you are watching Drishti IAS. In this live session, we will be discussing the Indian Express newspaper, and you know that obviously it was weekend, so we could not come live. So we will be considering the newspaper of your Friday and Saturday and Sunday as well, and then we will be doing all these articles which are given in front of you. Other than that also we will be covering some passing references which we have in one or another other way we have already discussed. Okay, so today we will be starting with the practice session and then we will be moving towards the fact of the day. Knowing our constitution, here we will be discussing the article 368 today. Okay, so you will be understanding that why amendment is important, why you can say what are the ways we can go for the amendment in the Indian constitution. Okay, all these things we will be looking at in article 368 today. After that, we will be going to the important articles. One is removing blindfold of Lady Justice. Last time when we were discussing the newspaper, I have given this passing reference that when we look at the statue of the justice, or you can say in the movies etc., or in the courtroom or the outside the courtroom, you must have seen that there is a lady holding the you can say weights in the hand, or you can say the balance, and the another hand she will be having a sword. Okay, now that is the notion of you can say we can say that it is a Western notion to look at the justice, or you can say the a form which they have given to the justice, and in that particular statue you will be seeing that there is a blindfold which is put on. Okay, and this time in India we have gone for some kind of change. At the Supreme Court's library there was this another statue of Lady Justice which has been unveiled, and that does not have the sword. It has the constitution in one hand and the weighing balance in the second one. Okay, so that is there. We will be discussing about all these things. Okay, now so thank you for joining. So let's start with the discussion. We will be talking about these four articles: removing the blindfolds, which we have discussed, then 1 trillion to move away from coal. You know that India is the one among the largest you can say producers of the coal, or you can say users of the coal. We go for the you can say electricity generation, and most of the industry is actually dependent on the coal. Now we want to move away from coal to the greener energy or the cleaner energy because of the climate change related things. So there was this institution, or you can say there is this organization which has gone for the you can say estimation, which says that nearly 1 trillion US dollar will be required in the coming 30 years for India to move from coal to the green energy. Okay, so we will be talking about that. Then we will be talking about the NBFCs. NBFCs are charging a way more interest, or you can say they are charging unfair interest rates. Okay, so RBI has warned various times, but this time RBI has named 4 entities and they have banned them. Okay, so we will be talking about that. Okay, here you can see this is the front page. So 7 employees of infra company gunned down in Kashmir terror attack. So there was this terror attack which has happened. That is you can say cowardly act which was performed, but right now we will not go into this. We will try to cover the you can say important areas which were there in the news on map. Okay, moving further, Khalistan extremist Canada deep asset to destroys ties Indian envoy. Okay, so you know that this issue is going on which we have already discussed, so we will not go into this one as well. Mostly you can say there is this tit for tat attitude which has been taken with in the India and China Canada ties. Sorry. So in the India and Canada ties, if you look at the current situation, there is this tit for tat situation which is building, wherein some of the diplomats has been sent back from India, from the Canada. All these things are happening. So that is not important as of now, because we have discussed the Canadian relation, India Canada relations for various times. Okay, now let's start with the practice question which was given to you. What was the purpose of section 6A of the Citizenship Act 1955? Sorry. Okay, so here you can see options are given: to provide citizenship to all immigrants from Bangladesh. Second is to remove all illegal immigrants from India. To provide a legal framework for certain migrants to seek Indian citizenship in Assam. To grant citizenship to all immigrants who has entered India before 1971. Now there are 4-5 things which are there when we talk about the citizenship to the all immigration. Okay, so that is little bit of extreme statement, so we can cross that. Then moving further, to remove all illegal immigrants from India. So this you might think can be there, but the thing is, when we talk about the section 6A, we know that there are some kind of deadlines, there are some kind of dates which has been decided. If it was for all, then why do we need a date over there? Okay, so that was the case. You can say we can remove this one as well. Then moving further, to grant citizenship to all immigrants, again that is also incorrect. Now looking at the third one, to provide a legal framework for certain migrants to seek Indian citizenship in Assam. Okay, so option C would be your right answer over here. Okay, so here is this current affair enough for UPSC CDS exam? For any kind of examinations, current affairs are the same. Mostly when you look at the newspaper, you have to read the newspaper for any kind of competition examination. So yes, this would be enough. Okay, now moving further, when we talk about the facts of the day, India, when we look at the research and development etc., we are not at par with the developed countries. Okay, we are lagging behind somewhere when we talk about the Nobels etc. Okay, so here we will be talking about the science and technology over here. See, India and the science Nobels. This has been taken from the explained section which was there in the newspaper on Saturday. Okay, so you can go through that as well. Otherwise, we will be looking at some facts, including 2024 prizes that were announced earlier this month. There have been 653 Nobel laureates in the physics, chemistry and the medicine. Only one of them, that is C.V. Raman, was an Indian working in India. Okay, now there are other scientists which has the Indian roots, which has the Indian origin. They have got the Nobel Prize, but he was the only person who has been Indian, and he has been in India for the research as well. He has done his research in India. Okay, so that is the only scientist we have. Other than that, there are few other scientists like here you can see Hargobind Khurana was there in the physiology or the medicine in 1968. He has got the Nobel Prize. Okay, after that we have Subramaniam Chandrasekhar in physics in 1983, and then Venkatraman Ramakrishnan in chemistry in 2009. But all of these people who were from India, but then they have shifted abroad and they have done their research over there, and ultimately at the time when they got the Nobel Prize, they were not citizens of India. Okay, so we can say that only one citizen, that is C.V. Raman, he was the only scientist. He has worked in India and got the, you can say, Nobel Prize. Other than that, there were various nominations which were there, like here you can say Satyendranath Bose. You must have heard about the boson particle. That boson name was given on his name. Okay, so he was nominated various times. I guess 7 times he has been nominated. Then we have this Meghnad Shah. He was also nominated for the 7 times. Homi Jahangir Baba, you must know. Okay, then we have G. N. Ramchandran, and then T.R. Sheshadri. Okay, so these are certain you can say renowned scientists which has been nominated again and again, but they could not receive the Nobel Prize. Okay, now why is that we are not having such infrastructure? When we talk about this particular fact, which is saying that only C.V. Raman was one person who has gone for the research in India, and other than that we have Nobels, but they are from the, you can say, they have worked in the different countries. That is because more focus has not been given to R&D earlier in India. In the recent time, you will see that there are various schemes which are working on the you can say to make sure that young people have interest in the R&D, in the science and technology, and there are certain at certain level we can say that the government is trying to provide for the infrastructure for the R&D in India. Okay, we do not have world class universities in India. We do not have that kind of infrastructure, and that is why most of the people who want to go for research mostly will see that they will be going into USA for the, you can say, engineering or the humanities related you can say departments. Okay, so that is why, since we did not have that kind of infrastructure, since we did not have that kind of facilities of research and development in India, that is why you will be seeing that most of the scientists are working abroad. Okay, you must have heard about this theory, that is brain drain. Not only scientists, not only you can say these people who want to study or research, there are people who has studied, okay, and then went outside to get a better job, better opportunity. Okay, so they are working for different countries but not for our own countries. That is the concept of brain drain. Okay, anyway, so this was the fact for today. Now we can move further to the next one, that is know our constitution. Today we will be discussing here part 20th, that is amendment of the constitution, article 368. Okay, now article 368 gives power to the parliament for the amendment of the constitution. Why do we need an amendment in the constitution? because we generally say that our constitution is an organic entity, or you can say it is a dynamic uh, document. Okay, that means that with the changes in the society, with the changes or the social reforms, or you can say what kind of let's say when we talk about the commencement of the constitution that happened in 1950s. Okay, and since then there are 75 years which has happened. So obviously we need the society has changed a lot, so we need to change the, you can say, constitution or the law which is governing the country. Okay, for that we need to amend or we need to change the constitution. But when we talk about Indian constitution, it is said that it is, you can say, not very easy to amend, or you can say that it is not very difficult as well. Okay, so most of the time you will be seeing that it is you can say the process is soft as well as hard. Okay, so here you can see when we talk about certain provisions which they can be, you can say, amended with the simple majority. Okay, so such subjects are there which can be amended through the simple majority, and that is why we are saying that our constitution is easy to amend. But there are certain subjects which are very hard to amend. Okay, so that is like federal feature of the constitution, parliamentary form of the government. All these things are not very easy to go for a change. Okay, that is why we are having, you can say, article 368, wherein you will require special majority. Okay, there are two kind of special majority, we will be seeing that. So ultimately we can say that our constitution is a living document, it's an organic document, and with the time it keeps changing. Okay, now coming to the procedure. So procedure for amending the Indian constitution. Okay, now article 368 in part 20 of the constitution deals with the power of parliament to amend the constitution and its procedure. So who can amend the constitution? That is parliament, and procedure is given in the article 368. Now coming to the next statement, it states that the parliament may amend the constitution by the way of addition, variation or repeal of any provision in the accordance with the procedure laid down in the for the purpose. Okay, now addition, we have added fundamental duties later on. Okay, from the 42nd Constitution Amendment Act. Okay, coming to the variation, there are various you can say the preamble. If we look at preamble has been changed. Okay, there are certain words which has been added later on. Okay, so that is their variation, you can change the content of the constitution. Then repeal, you know that fundamental right to property, that has been repealed. So we do not have fundamental right to property, but we have a legal right that is there in the constitution. Okay, but the thing is we do not have a fundamental right to property, so that has been repealed. So by these ways we can change the constitution of or any provision in accordance with the procedure laid down for the purpose. Okay, however, the parliament cannot amend those provisions which form the basic structure of the constitution. What is the basic structure? That Supreme Court will decide. Supreme Court will say these things are there which you cannot touch, which you cannot change. And when we talk about the basic structure, basically you can say that the philosophy of the constitution, the soul of the constitution, you cannot change that. When we say that India is a socialist country, or you can say India is a country with a secular sphere, so when we talk about the secularism, that is a core principle, you cannot change that. Okay, when we say that India is a republic, you cannot change that. So these are certain basic structures which are there, though we do not have a list of that, but there are various judgment of the Supreme Court which has said that these comes under the, you can say, the basic structure of the constitution, and that list is not exhaustive. Supreme Court can add more things as well. Okay, and that came after the Keshwanand Bharti judgment, you must be aware of that. Now moving further, here there are two kind of amendments which are there in article 368. It provides for two types of amendment, that is by a special majority of the parliament, that is one thing, and then the special majority of the parliament along with the ratification of half of the states. Okay, one is the special majority. As I told you, there are certain areas which are not very easy to amend, so for that you require a special majority. Okay, then coming to the special majority plus ratification by half of the states. Okay, so ultimately they are saying that their states will also have a say. Now that ratification is required wherever there is a federal feature which is getting amended. Okay, if there is a federal feature or any kind of federal provision which has been going for any kind of changes, at that point of time you will require this ratification from the, you can say, various states as well. Now amendment of the certain provision of the constitution require amendment by the simple majority of each house present and voting. These amendments are not deemed to be an amendments under Article 368. Again, as I told you, there are three ways. Okay, one is simple majority, second is special majority, third is special majority with the, you can say, ratification of 50% of the states. So when we talk about the special majority, that are covered under the 368, but when we talk about the simple majority through which you can change the provision, that is not part of your amendment under Article 368. Okay, let's say if you have to change the name of a state, okay, in that case you don't have to go for the Article 68. With the simple majority you can do it, okay, and that will not be considered as the constitutional amendment under Article 368. It is a constitutional amendment but not under Article 368. Okay, so I hope that is clear. Now we can move further and start our discussions. Okay, now lady justice, roots in ancient Greece, not always blindfolded. So there are certain things which are given over here. One thing, when we talk about the origin of this particular statute, obviously the whatever legal institutions we are seeing right now, that has something to do with the British legacy. Okay, now we know that Britain has India as their colony, and after they left, we have actually taken few features from them as well. Okay, this particular statue we have borrowed from them, and they have borrowed from the Greece, etc. Okay, so ancient Greece has this statue, and so there are certain you can say incidences where you will find that there is a blindfold, and in the earlier, or you can say in the ancient Greece, that blindfold was not there. Okay, this blindfold came as a sarcastic, you can say as a satire. Okay, so there was this you can say the kind of a joke that was played, that was said that the lady justice has a blindfold, that she is not looking at the things which are happening in the society, she is not looking at the equality or inequality which is there in the society. But ultimately in the 1970s around, or I can 1900s around, there was this thing which has happened, and because of which that joke was converted into a practicality. It was said that she is not looking at it because she is treating everyone equally. Okay, so that is why there was this blindfold which was saying that she, in the eyes of law, everyone is equal, she is not looking at any kind of discrimination, and that is why there was this blindfold. But with now India has come up with the new statute. Okay, that statute is saying that in the eyes of law everyone is equal, she is looking at everyone equally. Okay, so that is one thing. This balance which is there, okay, this weighing balance which is there, that is saying that you are treating everyone equally. Okay, there is no you can say discrimination at all. Then here you can say earlier there was a sword in the hand of the lady. Okay, that sword was that the covenants, or generally it is you can say quote is there, covenants without you can say punishments, or covenants without swords are mere, you can say, words. Okay, so ultimately covenants is the law, and when we talk about without a sword, that means that if there is no punishment which is there for the violation of the law, that means that that is just words and nothing much. Okay, but that was a, you can say, western notion. Okay, now here this is the copy of the constitution which is there in the hand of the lady. Okay, so that is there. So here you can see she is wrapped in a sari. Other than that, there is a weighing balance and the constitution in the hand. Okay, so that is the Indianization of the statute. We know that we are going for the removing the colonial legacies. That is one of the part over here. Let's see now. The Supreme Court has unveiled a new statue of Lady Justice, reimagining the image, typically a blindfolded woman holding a set of scale in one hand and the sword in the other. Okay, and it is synonymous with the legal practice around the world. Most of the time you will be seeing that is the same statute which is used all around the world. Okay, now the new 6-foot tall statue in the judges library of the sari clad woman with no blindfold holding a scale, and instead of the sword a copy of constitution is there in the hand. Okay, so that is the new picture to represent the impartiality of the justice. The new statute is saying that law is not blind, it sees everyone equally. Okay, generally it is said that the you can say kanun andha hai. Okay, but now not anymore. In India we are having a different notion of justice which is saying that the law is not blind and it is looking at everyone equally. Okay, moving further, it is designed by Vinod Goswami. Now this name can be important for various PCS examinations maybe, or some statement based questions in UPSC. That is Vinod Goswami. He was the person who has actually designed this statute. Okay, or when we talk about the new criminal laws which has been there, other than that also there are various things which we are trying to change, like the flag of the navy, etc. So basically what we are doing is that we are taking you can say removing the colonial legacy which was there in our you can say system. Now changing means that when we talk about the you can say traces, so this is earlier there back to the Greece, and the Roman mythology, there was this you can say 12 titans born to Gaia and Uranus. Okay, so Gaia and Uranus, these are some characters which are there in the Greek mythology. Okay, and they are having these 12 titans. One of them was the Themis. Okay, and this Themis was known as the goddess of justice, wisdom, and the good counsel, and that was the way they had actually personified her. Okay, now the first Roman emperor Augustus introduced the worship of justice in the name of goddess known as Justitia. Okay, so this name was given Justitia, or Justitia, like Themis, did not wear blindfold. So earlier there was this blindfold was not there. Then first known image to show the blindfold justice came from a woodcut. There was this drama which was published, that is Ship of Fools, and a collection of satire poem by the 15th century lawyer, that is Sebastian Brandt. Okay, he has some sarcastic poems which has been there, and in that particular thing he has had this particular image. In 1494, image is not a celebration of blind justice but a critique. So basically it was a satire, it was a critique that she is not looking at the inequalities, and that is why he has put a blindfold. But later on, somewhere around in the 17th century, sorry, I might have told you the 19th one, but in the 17th century it was said that it has lost its you can say satirical connotation and had become to be equated with a very notion of the justice. So ultimately, it is all about the discourses, it is all about the stories which you are hearing. Okay, so earlier there was this stories that she was not looking at everyone equally, and that is why the blindfold was put on her eyes. Later on in the 17th century, the story was that there is a blindfold because she is looking at she is not looking at the discriminations. Okay, so that has actually attached with the notion of the justice, and ultimately that blindfold was there. When we talk about India, as I told you, with the Britishers that came to India. Okay, after that, when we talk about, it was there in the Calcutta High Court earlier in 1872. Okay, and then Bombay High Court too. Okay, now if you look at the Bangladesh, so there was this you can say statute which was actually put in Bangladesh Supreme Court. Okay, here you can say in December 2016, a large statue of goddess Themis was actually put in the Bangladesh Supreme Court. But you know that Islam is a faith which is not believing in any personification of the gods, etc., or they do not go for the you can say worship of idols, etc., and that is why there was this protest which were there. So they have shifted the statue to some other place. But later on, when recently that there was this coup which has happened in Bangladesh, and then there are people who has the actually thrashed the properties, etc. So at that point of time, that statue was also actually you can say broken at that point of time. Okay, anyway, so this is about the lady justice. Now we can move further to the next one. 1 trillion over 30 years, the huge cost of pivoting away from the coal. Now when you look at this particular article, there is this you can say institution or think tank, that is iForest. Now this iForest, that is International Forum for Environment, Sustainability and the Technology, they have gone for some kind of study wherein they have looked at the 4 districts of India, otherwise also at the global level also they have seen that, and ultimately they came to a conclusion that if you want to have a 100% transition away from the coal, you will require literally $1 trillion in the next 30 years. Okay, so here you can say for a just transition away from coal, India will require over 1 trillion or more than rupees 84 lakh crore over 30 years. Okay, so that is there. Coal will be central to India's energy mix for at least another decade, and moving away from it poses massive challenges. Now why coal is central to us? Because right now we do not have that kind of technology that we will be going for 100% transitions. Okay, that will require a lot of money, that will require a lot of R&D, that will require a lot of infrastructure. Okay, right now we are not having it. Okay, for that to have it, we need to spend that much money, that is 84 lakh crore rupees. Okay, that is one thing. Second thing is, our industry is dependent on the coal, so we cannot just simply ban the coal. We have to make sure that we are growing economically as well, and that is why for the next 10 years we will be dependent on the coal only. Okay, so that is there. What will be a just energy transition look like? Okay, when we look at the just energy transition, that means that when we are going for the transition, we are not harming the interest of the people or the people from the lower strata of the economy. We are not harming their interest as well. Like, let's say there are certain people who are working in the industry. Okay, now that is a coal industry which is there in the, you can say, Rampur in Jharkhand. Okay, Now, Ramgarh in Jharkhand. Okay, so ultimately, when we talk about this particular industry which is there, there are various people, miners, there are various you can say labor, etc., which are there in the industry. Now, if you suddenly stop or put a blanket ban on the coal, that means that all of these people lose their jobs. That will not be a just transition, because ultimately there will be a section of the society which will be paying for it. Okay, so that is not a just transition. Now let's see what is a just transition. The term just here refers to an equitable and the inclusive shift toward the low carbon economy. Inclusive and equitable shift. Okay, everyone should have a benefit out of it. Okay, and the shift should be inclusive. We will be taking all the section of the society together. Okay, towards a low carbon economy, which will keep in mind the interest of the fossil fuel dependent workers and the societies. Okay, so ultimately we will be looking at the people who are working in the fossil fuel related industries. Okay, now India is currently the second largest producer of the coal globally. As I in the start of the video I told that we are one among the largest producers of the coal. Okay, so that is there. We are second largest producer of the coal globally. Other than that, also public sector coal producing entities alone employ nearly 3,69,053 individuals. That we are talking about the public sector. There are many more in the private sector as well. Okay. Now we are having private sector thermal power plant and the coal run transportation, etc., etc. These are there which are generating a lot of employment. Okay. Now moving further, here you can see as India grows its renewable energy capacity to achieve net zero emissions about amount to the greenhouse gas emitted, which are offset in the atmosphere or with the technology by 2070, it will be important not to leave behind those who has dependence on the coal for their livelihood, and this change will not be cheap. So ultimately we do not want to leave behind anyone, so we have to make sure that we provide for them as well, we have a provision for them as well. Okay, what are the costs associated with the just transition? What are the costs? Why we need 84 lakh crore rupees? Because if you want to shift, then you have to make rehabilitation centers, you have to make sure that wherever mines were there, we repurpose them. We have to make sure that whatever miners which are working over there, we have another work available for them. Okay, so all these things are the ways in which we will be spending money. Here you can see cost of mine closure and the repurposing, retirement of the coal plants, repurposing of the sites for the clean energies, labor skilling for the greener job, economic diversification in the form of new businesses, community support, investment on the green energy, renewable substitution for the covering the losses to the state. When we talk about the coal, there is a revenue which is generated through the coal. Okay, and when you put a ban on that, that means that state will go facing for some kind of revenue loss as well. We have to make sure that that loss is being paid for. So that is their planning cost. All these things are the cost which are associated with the transition over here. Okay. Now 48% of the 1 trillion that is we have estimated that will be required to meet the cost over the next 30 years will go to the green investment for building energy infrastructure, which will have to replace the coal mines and the coal fire plants. Okay, so 48% or you can say nearly 50% of the investment which we are talking about, that will go for the infrastructure building. Okay, as I told you, we do not have that kind of infrastructure yet, we do not have that kind of buildings, we do not have that kind of R&D which was there, which is needed for all these things. Okay, now where will the funds will come from? So obviously fund will come from the public funding, obviously government will fund that. So most of the infrastructure creation, okay, or most of the things which you are talking about, the inclusion wherein you have to spend money for the people who are there. Okay, so all that will be coming from the government. Second thing is whatever R&D and the business related things are needed, that will be coming from the private sector. Okay, so that is second thing. Other than that, there are corporate social responsibilities which will be paying for that. There are various funds. Okay, so these funds are there which will be paying for that. Okay, so public funding, grants and subsidies, private investments in the green energy plants, infrastructure. Most of the public funding will be going for the non-energy related things, that means the capacity building or for the you can say rehabilitation of the people, etc. And then the you can say energy cost transaction will be coming from the you can say private investments. Okay, we have CSR funds which are there. Other than that, you must have heard about the district mineral fund which is there. Okay, district mineral foundation fund. Okay, now these miners are there, they have to give some money to this particular fund. Now that can also be useful for the transition. Okay, so that that is there. Moving further, how other countries approached a just transition. So when we talk about the South Africa, there was this plan, South Africa's just energy transition plan, okay, and for that they needed nearly $98 billion, okay, and that has came from various countries like UK, France, Germany, US, European Union, Netherlands, Denmark, okay, and that is for the 20 years. For the 20 years they have got this much money. Then when we talk about the Germany as well, Germany also has the plan to have this phasing out the coal by 2038, okay, so that is also there. What did the study for of the 4 coal dependent districts in India said? So there is this 4 districts, that is Korba, Bokaro and Ramgarh in Jharkhand, Angul in Odisha, wherein this study was performed, okay. So it was saying that the coal based economy of Bokaro and with its multiple coal plants and one integrated steel plant contributes to 54% of the district's domestic income and 1,39,000 workers employed in the coal mining at the coal plants and the allied sectors, okay. So ultimately they are saying that 1,39,000 people are dependent on the coal industry in Bokaro itself, only one district we are talking about, okay. So that is saying that what we have to, for the full phase out, we need to employ a lot of things, we need to make a lot of provisions for all these people, okay. So that is about the 1 trillion you can say, okay. Anyways, so that is about the 1 trillion US dollars which are required for next 30 years for the coal phase out. Right now, for the next 2 decades, 1 or 2 decades, we might not go for the 100% coal removal. That is because we need to look at the economic growth as well, okay. Now let's move further to the next article, that is talking about the how early human evolved to eat starch and why that matters, okay. So right now when we talk about the starch, there is this particular, you can say, a molecular compound which is there, that is amylase, okay, that is an enzyme which is there, amylase. So first we will be talking about that, then we will be coming to the articles, okay. So when we talk about when you start eating, okay, so whenever you take starch, this is the you can say enzyme which convert starch into sugar, okay. Our body stores the energy in various forms, okay. So the starch is converted into sugars, okay. This is found in saliva and the pancreas. It produced in the saliva and the pancreas to help the digestion of the food. Then start digestion in the mouth. When you eat starchy food like bread or rice, amylase in your saliva start breaking them down right in your mouth. Then moving further, it helps convert the carbohydrates to the energy, okay. So these carbs are converted into energy by breaking down the starch. Amylase help your body to turn carbohydrates in the energy, and used in the medical test for various the presence of the amylase in the body that will decide whether you are having any ailment or not, okay. So that is amylase, which is basically breaking down the starch into sugars. That is something which you should remember. And now coming to the, you can say, presence of amylase in the humans and what has happened throughout the history, okay. So if you look at this particular thing, you know that there are various times when we started agriculture. There is a timeline in the human history, okay. So before we had gone for the agriculture, we did not have much idea. There are two you can say two benchmark event which has happened. One was the invention of fire, second was the agriculture, okay. When we talk about the invention of fire, before that they could not go for eating the food which is rich in starch, okay. Let's say potato is rich in starch. This starch are, or you can say this food are basically very hard to eat, okay. Imagine eating the raw potato, you won't be able to do that, okay. So earlier when we talk about the before fire, there was this less use of amylase which was there in the body, but after the fire invention of the fire, they could cook the potato and then they could eat it, okay. So that way they started to consume the starch. So ultimately we can say that after the invention of fire, they have gone for the you can say consumption of the starch. After that, when we talk about the agriculture, once agriculture came, then they have started to go for the cultivation of rice, they have gone for the agriculture of the potato. All these things has happened, and then even more evolution has happened and more use of amylase was there, okay. So the article is saying that with the invention like fire and the agriculture etc., there was this use of amylase which is increased, okay. So let's see. As soon as starch, whether it be in the form of boiled rice, french fries or momos, enter into mouth, and an enzyme in the saliva start breaking it down. This enzyme is known as the amylase and was critical for the human evolution, helping the species to adopt to changing in the food supply. So as the food supply changed, or as the invention of fire came, so there was this changes which has happened in the body as well. Okay, now there are two studies which are talking about this particular thing. So it revealed that our ancestors began carrying more amylase genes in two major ways. One was the invention of fire. Okay, since then they started to have more and more amylase in the genes, and after that, second was the that came in the, you can say, after the agriculture revolution, which has happened in the 2000, or you can say around 2000 years ago. Okay, so these were the two incidents when the amount of the amylase in the body or the genomics has started to increase. Okay, a useful enzyme in 1960s, the scientists discovered that some people produce extra amylase in their saliva, but it has only been in the past few years that researchers has not been able to zero down on the amylase gene. Okay, so they are saying that there are certain people who are producing more and there are certain people who are producing less, and this particular event has happened in the recent past. Okay, because that simple logic is that we are using more and more starch related food. Okay, now both the study catalogued a wide range of amylase copies in the people's DNA. Some has single amylase gene on each copy of them, that particular chromosome, whereas most has many more, in some cases as many as 11. Now they simply understanding that there are certain people who are having copies of amylase on the one chromosome. Okay, that is there, and there are some which are having as many as 11. So that means that there are some which is using more amylase. Okay, so that's the simple thing which is given. You don't have to worry about all these things, that will not ask you in such details, but just know that there are certain people who are evolved in such a way that there is, in their genes, the you can say the production of amylase that has been there, or you can say that is increased. Okay, when we talk about chimpanzees, for instance, also make amylase in their saliva, but they carry only single gene for the enzyme. Okay, so chimpanzees are somewhere, you can say that before humans or primates, which we are also somewhere having belongings with this particular species, so they are having single copy of amylase. Okay, and humans right now are, some of them are having single one, some of them are having as many as 11. Okay, 2 3 4 5 and 11. So like that, we are saying that is the process of evolution. History in our mouths. So as I told you that earlier, we could not eat the starch related food because they are very hard, and after the invention of the, you can say, fire, you can directly go for the boiling such food, or you can say cooking such food, because of which that gets soft, and then we started to use starch. Okay, raw potato is rich in starch. Okay, but you cannot eat the raw potato, but if you boil it, or if you go for roasting it, and after that you can actually use, after the cooking this, you can actually eat that. So after the invention of fire, people started to use it, and after the agriculture got into mainstream societies, then also there is this diet has changed into starch rich diet, and ultimately you can say the presence of amylase has increased. Okay, now what is the speculations for the future? Here you can see people today who have fewer amylase genes may be more vulnerable to disease like diabetes that are fueled by the starch heavy modern diet. We are having a diet which is starch heavy. Since you are not able to go for the digestion of such diets, that means that there will be ailments. So if you are having less amylase production, that means that you will be having certain diseases. Okay, so that is there. Ultimately, we have talked about this. Now moving further to the next one, why RBI acted against 4 NBFCs and how borrower ended up paying excessive interest. Okay, now you can go through this, but the thing is, I will tell you the idea. What is that? There are certain non-banking financial institution NBFCs which are called as companies. Now these NBFCs are not properly regulated. Okay, that is one of the concern which is there with respect to RBI as well as. Okay, so these NBFCs are giving certain services like giving loan. Some of them can take deposit, some of them cannot. Okay, now there are certain NBFCs which are actually, they might be registered with some you can say RBI related institution, or there are certain fraud activities are also happening. So let's say there is this particular application which is saying that we will be giving you loan on a click. But what you have to do is, when you are clicking here, they are asking you some permissions. Okay, that permissions are with respect to your contacts, with respect to some personal information. Most of the time when you are in the need of the money and you need money, at very fast, so at that point of time you go and check these boxes. Okay, so this personal information is with these applications now. Okay, what they can have, that they can have contacts. Okay, they can have other personal information, etc. Now they have given you the loan. There are various hidden charges which are there. Okay, there are various hidden charges, and these hidden charges actually increase the cost of loan. So that means that the interest will be very high. Okay, what you have taken, that money, and what you will be paying, that will be having a significant gap. Okay, so ultimately you can see that mostly nearly 60% of the interest are also being charged over here. Now that is the concern. That is why they have actually banned 4 of them. They have acted against 4 NBFCs over here, and they have made cautious the borrowers that you have to make sure that you do not do such things. Now what happens is that after 1 week of such loan which has been given, you will be starting to receive calls like you have to pay it, and you have to pay it upfront. If you don't, we will be contacting your you can say relatives, etc., because they have your contact list. Okay, they even go for the harassment. They send you the message with the abusive languages. They can send you some kind of morph videos as well as, okay, there are pornographic videos which has been sent to harass the people. All these things were happening. Okay, and that is why RBI has actually taken you can say cognizance of that, and they have actually taken an action against the 4 NBFCs. You don't have to remember the name of these NBFCs, that is not important. Issue we have discussed, charges against them. So obviously charges are that they are not following the guidelines. One thing, they are not they are charging more than what they are supposed to charge. Okay, so they are having this unfair practices, they are getting this unfair profits. Then third is the harassment of the clients which is there. Okay, then violation against despite the RBI warning, RBI has warned them again and again. The RBI in general has warned various NBFCs that you do not have to go for the unfair interest collection, etc., but they did not respond to that. So ultimately they have gone for this action. Now predatory loan applications, as I told you, there are certain applications which are basically not even affiliated with the RBI, or they are fraud, they can be fraud. Okay, so for such things you have to be very, you can say, cautious about all these things. Before taking a loan, you have to make sure that you are going for a genuine entity. Okay, so that is there. Sir, what is meant by the ratification of half of the states? So half of the states has to give their, you can say, consent that you can go with the change. Okay, ratification means that this particular resolution will come to their legislative assemblies, and where they will pass it, they will give their consent that they are okay with the changes which are being made to the constitution. That is ratification. Half of the state means how many state assemblies are there? Half of them, okay, have to give the you can say this particular ratification. Anyways, now moving further to the next article, that is talking about the health cover for the senior citizens. Term life insurance may get GST waiver. You can go through this because when we talk about the GST council, we have talked about the GST council, and we have said that there was this group of ministers which has been made that will be taking a note of the you can say readjustment in the various you can say things with respect to the GST's slabs which are there. Other than that also they will be going for the key recommendations. Okay, so they have given GST exemptions on the term life insurances, health insurances, and health cover, etc., and rate rationalization they have gone for. So you can go through this article because there is this amount of time, so we will not be going into details of it, but just thing is just go through this particular, you can say, infographic, that would be sufficient. Now moving further, here we are having this passing reference that India, Brazil, African countries should be represented in the UNSC. India has this, you can say, bid for the permanent seat at the UNSC Council. So there are other countries which are also talking about the similar thing which was there over here. Russia's top diplomat has said that his country believes that India, Brazil, African countries should be represented in the UN Security Council because it is underrepresented. When it was made in 1946, somewhere around that was the different world we were living in. Now we are living in a different world. Okay, so that is why this is something which has been called by the said by the Russian diplomat. Okay, in first meeting of the JNK cabinet, they have come up with the statehood resolution by Omar to PM. They have said that they will be visiting the PM. So now there is a statehood demand by the Jammu and Kashmir State Assembly. Okay, so that is there. Now LG, the Lieutenant Governor of the Jammu and Kashmir, that has put a stamp of approval on the resolution of the government. Okay, so that is there. Now Kuno is again in the news because of the tick infections. Okay, because of the tick infections, they are again in the news. Earlier there are few cubs which has died, there are few cheetahs which has died. UNO was there with you can say in the news with respect to the cheetah introduction reintroduction program. So please remember that. Other than that, also you can remember the Gandhi Sagar as well. Okay, drone targets Netanyahu's house. No casualty. Israeli strikes kills 50 in Gaza. So this situation still is the same in the you can say Middle East. Okay, so that is there. And all eyes on Modi the BRICS summit as Delhi Beijing announced visit. Okay, so 22 October 22 to 23 we are having this BRICS summit. We will be talking about that once the outcomes are there, so we will keep a note of that. Okay, anyways, in the end we are having this for your own read. This article, India and the Science Nobel, which we have already discussed. Okay, second is why Andhra came up with the new liquor policy, so you can go through this article as well. Okay, now we have a practice question. What is the primary function of the amylase? A, break down the proteins, break down fats, break down starch into sugar, or break down vitamins. So you can attempt this question and answer to me in the comment box. Okay, with that I would like to take your leave. I'll see you in the next session. Till then, have a good day. Thank you, and please subscribe the channel.